Okay.
Yoma 67. Miyakir Yerushalayim hayom malavino soad sukkah rishona. The important people of Yerushalayim would accompany the goat until the first booth. There were 10 booths between Yerushalayim and where they took the goat to the cliffs. Eser sukkos b'Yerushalayim v'atzuk tishim ris. Tzuk was a high mountain with cliffs. There's a 7.5 ris to every mil. So there's 90 ris to 12 mil. So there were 11 sort of stops between Yerushalayim and the 10th place. And Rashi says from Yerushalayim to the Sukkah Rishon was one, and from that first Sukkah until the other 10. So there were 10 different travelings. And from the last one, from the 10th to Tzuk, was also one. So each masa was 1 mil. The last one was 2 mil. And you could travel 1 mil, that was a Tchum Shabbos, 2,000 amas. The last one they could not travel with them, and we'll see, they only could stand from afar to look, because it was beyond the Tchum. Al kol sukkah v'sukkah oimrim lo. At each sukkah, they would tell the accompanier, Arei Mazon, Arei Mayim, here's food, here's drink. Now, it's Yom Kippur, so he's not supposed to eat or drink. But the Gemara will say, a person who knows that he has the possibility of eating or drinking feels better. They would accompany him from one sukkah to the next, chutz ma'achron, except for the last one, that was too far, that was beyond the tchum. They would see from afar what he was doing. Now, what did he do? He would take a red string, one was tied to a rock on the top of the cliff. The other half of the red string was tied between his horns. And they would push, and then they pushed the goat off the cliff. And he would roll over and over until he would go down. Half the mountain down, he was already broken into pieces. He would, the accompanier would stay under the last sukkah until nightfall. When would it become tamei? So it's machlokes. Tanakama says, once he leaves the walls of Yerushalayim, he became tamei. Rav Shimon when he was pushed down the cliff, that's when he became tamei. The distance between Yerushalayim and the cliffs were 12 mil, and there were 10 sukkahs between this distance. There were 9 sukkahs and 10 mil. They made an eruv because you can travel 2,000 amas. Rav Yosi, Sachli Elazar B'ni. If we're going to use an eruv, you could make 2 booths and 10 mil. Who is the Man Omer that says that they did not accompany him from the 10th sukkah, but they watched him from afar? To Rab Meir, that's the sheet of Rab Meir. Al kol sukkah v'sukkah omer la reimazah v'reimai. They would tell him that in each sukkah there is food and drink. Nobody ever had to eat on Yom Kippur. Somebody who knows he has bread in his bread basket already feels better. What did he do at the cliff? He would divide the red string into two. He would tie one on the rock at the top and one between the horns of the goat. Ask the Gemara Mario?
Yes.
Vinictere kula basela. Why not tie the whole thing to the rock? Kiva the mitzvah b'sor dilma kodimu malbin. There is a halacha mitzvah to push the goat off. Now, if they would see the red string turn white, which was a siman that their sins were forgiven, we're concerned, the person will have rachmanis on the goat and not push the goat off the cliff. But you got to push the goat off the cliff. Okay. V'nikter kula ben karnov. So tie the whole thing between his horns. Because zimnin de gamish lilaration v'lavadaite. The goat could turn his head, and we might not see the string. They used to tie the red string on the opening of the ulam of the heichal. When it turned white, everybody was happy. Lo hilbin, if it did not turn white, as a siman that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not forgive us, hayu atzevin umizbaishin. They were sad and embarrassed. So they made a takana to tie it on the inside. People would still sneak in and look. And if it turned white, they were happy. Lo hilbin hayu atzevin. And if it did not turn white, they were depressed. That's when they made the takana to tie the string on the head of the goat. The original takana was to tie it on the inside of the heichal. Kivan Shagia Surla Midbar, once the goat made it to the desert, Hayamalbin, it would turn white. The Yodu Shanasis Mitzvasu. And it was known that the mitzvah was done to push it off the cliff. Shenamar im yuchataechem kashonim kashela gelbin. Loya magil b'achti sahar. Halfway down, the goat was already into pieces. Can you benefit from the pieces of the Sora Mishtaleh? Rabu Shmuel Chadamar Mutarin. One says it's Mutar. Chadamar Asurin. Mandamar Mutarin Dichsiv Bamidbar. It's hefker like Midbar, so anybody can use it. Mandamar Asurin Dichsiv Gzeira. Gzeira, it's a Chumrah, and it's an Isser. Mandamar Asurin I Midbar my Ovidlay. The one who says it's prohibited, what do you need the word midbar? Midbar by midbar, 3 times. It says to take the goat out to the desert. The rabbis Noy v'Givon, Shiloh u'Beis Olamim. These are the 3 places where the Mishkan stopped. Right? It was in Nov and Givon. It was in Shiloh. It was Beis Olamim. Each time there was still a mitzvah of the Sar Mishtaleach. The Idich HaGzeira my Ovid lay. What is the Mandamar who learns from Midbar? What does it do with Gzeira? Gzeira means you got to take it to a cliff that has sharp stones that can cut it up. It means it's very steep, the cliff, and goes down. People will think that this whole, what kind of kedusha is there in throwing off this goat? I'm the one who's goizer this special halacha, and you can't, think that it's not doesn't come from Hashem. Because the Torah wouldn't have say send the goat for people then to have a problem with the not being able to benefit from the limbs. Azazel sheyu az v'kosher, the place, the cliffs where they threw the goat off, has to be a very harsh and strong place. Yachol b'yishuv, I might be where people live. Talmud Lamer b'midbar. It's got to be in the desert. Uminayin shebetzuk. How do I know it has to be in a cliff-like place like tzuk? Talmud Lamer gzeira, which means cutting. Tanya yidich azazel, kasha shebaharim, the hardest of the mountains. V'cheinu omer ves eleha aretz lakach. He took the hard places of the ground. Toned ver b'shmoel, azazel, shemachaper al ma'aser uzav azoel. It's to be machaper for the malachim who came down to the earth and had relations with the Benosa Aretz, which is at the end of Parshas, the first Parsha of Bereishis. Tanur Rabbanos, Mishpatai Ta'asu, Dvorim Shemai lo nichtavu dinu she'ikazvu. Things that the Azazel is going to be machaper for things that need kapara. Elohen avodah zar gilu arayos shvichas damim, the gazel ubirchas Hashem, cursing God and stealing. V'schukosai tishmaru, dvorim shasad v'umasoi meshivin aleim. Those are things that we understand why you shouldn't do them. You shouldn't murder. You shouldn't commit adultery. You couldn't steal. Those make sense. But then there are also halachas that don't make sense, that the goyim ridicule the Jewish people for doing them because they don't have a rhyme or reason. Like achilas chazir, eating pork, levisha shatnes, wearing shatnes, chalitzas yavama, doing chalitza to a yavama, taharas mitzora, and the Sar Mishtaleach, and sending the goat. Shematoimer masa toem, maybe you'll think this is all nonsense. Talmud ani Hashem. I established these as a chok, and you can't challenge them. Then the Mishnah asked, when does the guy become tamei? Only the person who accompanies the goat becomes tamei. The person who sent the person does not become tamei. I might think he becomes tamei right when he leaves the walls of Yerushalayim. Talmud Lamar, ha mishaleach, has to be sent away. Maybe he doesn't become tamei until he gets to the cliffs. Talmud Lamar va mishaleach ha ketzad mishayetze chutz l'chametz Yerushalayim. Did Rabbi Yehuda says the moment he leaves the walls of Yerushalayim, he becomes tamei. Rabbi Yossi Omer azazel v'chibes ad shegiel latzuk. You don't become tamei until you reach the cliffs. Rab Shimon Omer, v'mishaleches asoy lazazel yichapes begodov, zorko bevasrosh u'matam begod. The moment he throws him off the cliff, that's when he becomes tamei. Mishnah. Balo Eitzel Par v'Sar Nisrafim. So the bodies of the par and the goat have to be burnt. So before he burns them, Karan V'Hoitzi he tears it, and they take out the innards. Nasan b'Magis Viktir al Gabi Mizbeach. They put it on a plate. Later on, they're going to throw it on the Mizbeach. Klon b'Miklos, they tied the goat and the par sort of into one string. Then they took it out to the place of burning. And the person who burns it also becomes tamim. Once you take it out of the azar. No, once the fire takes hold in the majority, that's when he becomes tamim. Do we now in the order? Is that now we burn the emurim later? Later on, they're going to burn it, but they put it on the plate now. They tied the goat and the par together, like a braid. They didn't chop it into pieces like the meat of an ola, but rather they just take the flesh off the meat. It says here the hide, the meat, and the inside. The nemer lahal or basar who perish. Ma lahal yadei nituch v'lo yadei hefsher avkana yadei nituch v'lo yadei hefsher. We'll learn this tomorrow. So tomorrow night we'll learn at 9:15.
Ernie, where are you, Ernie?
Huh?